Well, what's the crack? And welcome back to the Proud Crack podcast with me, Damien McCall. I'm your host, and my pronouns are he, him, and I'm here hopefully inspiring you to be better allies in the world from hearing wonderful stories from really inspiring people here in Ireland. And just to reintroduce yourself, in case you've missed the first episode, who are you and what's the crack?
What's the crack? How are you? My name is Bernadine Quinn, and I am the manager of Outcomers, an LGBT Community Centre in Dundalk.
Great. And the crack's still 90?
Oh, the crack is good.
Good. Right, so that's a good start to the second episode because the crack's still flowing. So in the first episode, me and Bernie were talking about what makes her proud and the history of Outcomers and how it came about and Bernie's involvement in it and where she's brought it up to. So in this episode, we're going to be rounding it off, hearing about what's going on today with Outcomers and some calls to action. So if anybody wants to get involved or wants to contact you, Bernie's going to show how we're going to find out about that and how they can do that. But before we move on to that final bit, we've got a couple of things that we want to go through that have now made a tradition. One I think I've had to convince Bernie on, which is the first one, which is my cracking cultural recommendations. Now, she hasn't told me what they are. I don't know what they are, and I've got mine that I'm going to share. But would you like to share yours first, or would you like me to share mine? I'm quite happy either way.
Oh, it doesn't matter to me. Go on, go first.
Okay. Well, mine's not rocket science, and it's linked in with something I talked about in the first episode, which was my T-shirt. So again, my visual descriptors for those who are just listening. I'm wearing a T-shirt saying "Proud to be a friend of Dorothy." Very understated statement, I think.
Mm-hmm. Probably would know what that meant.
No, not at all. Well, unless they're a crocodile, as you told us in the first episode.
Called Dorothy.
I'm wearing that T-shirt because I am proud. And I am a friend of Dorothy. And also, those of you that haven't heard that for the first time, that's surprising, but to give you a bit of a background to it, and maybe Bernie can help me with this, this goes all the way back to following the Yellow Brick Road.
That's right.
My understanding of it is that, if you're a friend of Dorothy, you are part of the gay community. What's your understanding?
I think it was that she kind of Dorothy picked up all the straw man and the tin man, and the line, all the kind of misfits of society.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it came from. And it was a huge gay men's saying back in the 60s, maybe the 50s, was you were a friend of Dorothy's meant that you were one of the misfits, I think, of society, and that you had a home with Dorothy.
So that's the T-shirt I'm wearing, and the relevance of it, not know the history of it. My first cracking cultural recommendation is to see the conclusion of the Wicked movie series. So Wicked, as we know, is a production in the West End and all around the world. It's a stage production based off The Wizard of Oz, which we've just been talking about. And this is kind of like a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. And last year it was one of the biggest movies or biggest musicals in the world. Got Ariana Grande. How did I forget Ariana's second name? Bad.
You're right. And in your membership card immediately.
Well, look, I've got my rainbow laces on, so maybe that gets me back in.
Okay, last chance.
And then, of course, the amazing Cynthia Erivo, and it's who's got the most amazing voice as well. So, and she's from a West End background as well. And also, at the time of recording, the kind of leading man in it, if you say there was a leading man in Wicked, is Jonathan Bailey. And he's just been named People's Sexiest Man Alive.
Oh, that's who that guy is.
That's who he is, yes. And he is the first gay man to own that title.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they've been doing it about 40 years or something.
Wow.
And it's the first time a gay man's done that. So it might not seem significant to many people, but I think it's pretty cool. But, you don't have to be of the straight persuasion to be a sexy man. Sexy man. Well, this is the other thing. Like, we're not even, it's like, what's your definition of sexy? You know, so I think this is from the traditional sense sexy, as in like, oh, he's quite a handsome man.
And we seem to ask women who's the sexy man and ask men who's the sexy woman.
Yeah.
But now I suppose this changes it around a bit. So we're asking some of the men who's the sexy man.
I know, and you know what's nice though is you get a lot more what do you call those men?
Bang for your buck.
Oh, so yeah. But I suppose a lot more men are comfortable and just being honest and open about like, oh, it's a pretty good looking man.
Yes.
Comfortable and saying,
gay or straight.
Yeah.
These metropolitan men or whatever they're called.
Yes.
That are quite comfortable to say he's actually a very sexy man.
Yes. And everybody should feel comfortable saying it. Well, I say apparently, I think he's pretty sexy. That's Jonathan Bailey in that movie. So that's my cracking cultural recommendation.
Okay.
I'm trying to make this a thing, but it doesn't make it any easier to say that phrase, cracking cultural recommendation.
No. So my cracking cultural recommendation would be, I suppose I have two.
Right.
And one is if you listen to podcasts and to things like this, that if you go on to BBC Sounds and you find soul music,
okay,
and you go in there and you listen to Small Town Boy, Jimmy Somerville, the Communards back in the day. Yeah. So super podcast about that song.
Right.
About how that song came about. And it tells the story from about 4 or 5 different people's point of view of hearing the song for the first time. So there's one guy talks about, and make the hair stand on your head, talks about leaving Uri.
Right.
I'm going to London to live.
Right.
Yes. And going into a bar and hearing it. And back in the 80s, and after leaving a cold Newry and walking in and that beat starting and him starting to talk about finding his tribe and finding his people. And it is gorgeous. It's absolutely a gorgeous podcast. And then at the end of it, he talks about going back to find that there's pride in Newry and there's an LGBT community in Newry and how life has changed. So the Newry he left all those years ago.
This is spooky. That sounds like me, but it's not.
It is an absolutely beautiful story. So it's on BBC Sounds, and there's hundreds of really good songs in there. And every one of the songs, they've asked different people, they've interviewed different people and asked them to tell their stories behind the song. Some Liza Minnelli songs and people like that. And so if you go onto that and you look for the Communards, Small Town Boy, it is an absolute banger of a podcast. They're only about 20 minutes long, and they talk about the lives of 2 or 3 people, and the ones in Small Town Boys all gay, and it's super. Another really good one that I loved in it, which was the Scorpions, one of their songs. Oh my God, the stuff they talk about is brilliant. So go on, have a listen to it. So that is definitely something, and I envy anybody that's going to do that, because hearing it for the first time is amazing.
That's a great recommendation.
So that's the first one. So my second recommendation is something that I've watched on TV on Virgin Media 1, and it just finished last night. And it was called Dining with the Enemy. And it's a group of people that sit around a table together and talk about their lives. And in it, there was a lesbian woman. Izzy Kamikaze was there as a lesbian woman. There is a male porn star. There is a young woman who experienced a very egregious assault on the street in Limerick. A guy punched her in the face or something not long ago. And there's a bisexual woman. And there's a few different conservative men. There's people of colour, people of different nationalities, and there's a trans young person from Monaghan who we know very well here. His name is Jacob. And so there's a group of people sit around the table, and they are prompted from the producers. Different questions come up, and did you ever tell a lie? And what do you feel guilty about? And things like that. And people tell their different stories, you know. And it's interesting to listen to some of the stories, but the LGBT team running through it was what kept me going back to it because some of it I was kind of exhausted listening to, but I stuck with it because of and I knew Dill Wilkin Singer came onto it as well. I knew Dill and I knew Jacob and I know Izzy Kamikaze. So I stayed to hear their stories and how they steered through it, because there is some stuff set up to make them fail and the questions asked to, anger people and stuff like that. But what was really impressive was the last night of it, which was last night. And they go round the table and they kind of say, what's your takeaway from this few weeks? I think it might be 4 or 5 episodes long. I'm not really sure. And what's your takeaway from it? What's your takeaway from it? What's your takeaway from it? And the thing that really impressed me was every one of them said, it has made me think differently about transgender people.
Yeah.
Jacob's contribution has made me think differently. Then what's your takeaway? Well, I think there's an awful lot more to be said about trans people than when I first started this. What's your takeaway? I think that Jacob represented the trans community, and I think what he said has absolutely changed how I feel. So all of them were impacted. And it goes to show that actually what the issue with trans people in some cases is people not knowing anybody that's trans and never having had the opportunity to sit down and have a genuine conversation with somebody who's part of the trans community. Jacob took no offense to anything that was said, and what he did was he explained him, but really personally. He said, I didn't choose to be this way. I am this way. And trans people don't choose to be gay or be transgender, but we are transgender and we have to try and live our lives. And he hit home every time.
Wow.
And all of the people around the table were impacted by what Jacob had to say. And I thought, in this current day and age, what a super easy cultural way. There was lots of very strong personalities in that room. Jacob was suffocated some of the times, and because other people were much louder and I have this to say and I have this to say, and that's wrong. And as a Christian, I don't believe in. So there was loads of that kind of stuff going on. But when it was all said and done, the quiet voice of Jacob was the one that impacted everybody around the table.
Gosh.
So it's definitely worth going on to the Virgin Media Player or wherever you find it, because it's over. But we repeated it in a few weeks on it or something like that. But it's definitely worth going on to the Virgin Media Player or maybe on to YouTube or somewhere like that.
What's the name?
It's called Dining with the Enemy.
Yes.
And it was very, very good. It was very impressive, and more to view.
Mm-hmm.
So they are my 2 cultural things. Small Town Boy on Soul Music on BBC Sounds. Go and listen to that podcast. And the other one is Dining with the Enemy.
Wonderful. Like, considering I told you not to tell me here, I mean, said you hadn't planned them. You said all that very well.
So I hadn't thought about them, but somewhere up here there's a wee minion. Me excuses, knitting me stories or something.
But also, because you talk so eloquently about them, they clearly are impactful for you.
Oh, that Small Town Boy is probably the best podcast I've ever listened to.
Wow.
I mean, I haven't listened to too many of yours yet, so I'll have to see you very soon.
Put that shovel away. You didn't take it. Well, thank you so much for that. And it's funny, you just picked a memory of mine. Do you know you were talking about the panel event that you were on at Nearing Pride?
Yes.
Alexa Moore was also on that panel.
Yes.
And just listening to you talking about Jacob, you mentioned that?
Yes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were blown away by how eloquent Alexa is. And also that they have that very funny and witty, and with being the first woman at a all-boys school, and just like really charming and really powerful. And they just happened to be from Newry. So,
well, I remember them coming here with mom and dad and baby sisters and bringing Alexa in here when this was all only starting.
To where?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, the crack is flowing here.
Uh-huh. I met Alexa's dad last night.
You didn't, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
I was known very well.
Oh, it's lovely to hear.
Yeah. And she's doing great.
Well, I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, she's doing great.
Considering the climate we're in now, it's good to know then that she's doing great, because I could understand it if she might be struggling, because we're all struggling with so much going on. So, not to underplay it, but it's good to know then there's other things that we can get. We've got things such as you've just recommended, or whether they be podcast, TV, or going to the cinema and see Wicked.
See Wicked. Go see Wicked.
Be afraid. You don't have to be afraid of Dorothy's, but if,
But it helps.
But it helps. It really does help. So that lovely note brings us into where we're going to talk about our dinner guests for a big fabulous. Now, in the previous episodes, I call it a fabulous queer dinner party. Now, it doesn't have to be queer. It's just that I know we've talked about in the past the use of the word queer, and it was more, I see it as it's more of an umbrella for the community. So people can identify whatever way they want to, but they may identify as queer, and then within that, another way of identifying themselves. But I know when we had touched on it in the past, I've tried to kind of own or reclaim the use of the word queer, but we've talked about it being a bit problematic. So before we get into who your dinner party guest would be, do you want to share with me a little bit about your thoughts on the use of the word queer?
Yeah, look, I think we've had one or two experiences here. We've been around a bit. I've been around a bit of time, and I suppose I have a historical understanding of the word queer, that or a historical, not understanding, experience, because when I was 16, 17, 18, queer wasn't the word. Queer is 45, 55 years later. So that's where I suppose a lot of my history with it comes from. So what I was saying at that Newry panel that night was that two things. We had an experience here quite a few years ago where a younger person made a poster, and she had put on it "Queers Disco next week" or whatever, I can't remember, but she had hand drawn a poster and it had said "Queers," and it was an announcement for something that was going on. And a much older gay man came in and pulled the poster down off the wall and said, "When have we started in this safe space allowing that word come in here?"
Right.
Okay. And so there was big drama over that anyway, and we got it sorted. But that was about sitting down and having that conversation about, do you know what queer is? Do you know where it came from? Do you know why we react this way to that word and all of that kind of stuff? And do you know why I use that word now? And do you know why I've taken ownership? So there was had this healthy conversation about it. So I was listening to Oprah Winfrey. I was watching Oprah Winfrey on something, and she had Jay-Z on speaking.
Right.
And she was challenging him around the N-word.
Right.
And she had said, "Do you want to explain to me why all of your songs, or a lot of your songs, has this word, and you're using it all the time, and you go on stage and you talk about this, and you're always using this word?" And he was saying, "Oh, it's reclaiming the word, and in this day and age, and blah, blah, blah." And Oprah Winfrey said, "You do realize that a lot of men from our race and our community, that was the last word they heard when somebody put a rope around their neck and strung them from a tree."
Gosh.
And so she was really making the case of, you celebrate us and you say, end this and end that and all this great stuff about that word. And she was kind of saying, stop and think for a minute about the people whose lives were taken at the hands of white people in the deep south, I suppose, and around America, and how they were called it and called it and called it. And it was the last thing they heard as they were kicked off a chair, or as they were strung up and hung and died. And Oprah's argument kind of was that that's a sacred word, and that it's not a word that we should be using in a concert and celebrating and all of that kind of stuff, And so now the queer word is not as dramatic for me as that, but I get the I get that context. Like what I was saying to you earlier, there's a YouTube video on Outcomers' YouTube page, and we did it a couple of years ago, and we wrote a little monologue with some people, and it's talking about the diaspora and the people who left our country, who shame from small towns and villages, and shame, bringing shame to their family, ashamed of themselves, being called queer in school, being called queer on the street, their parents saying, everybody's saying you're a queer, what you're doing to this family, and people getting on boats and planes and trains and leaving home, some never to come back, some to go to a place where they found alcohol and they found misery and sadness and eventually maybe their own death, because they were running away from that word. So, like, where I absolutely see, and I see when we go to Pride in Dublin and there's 20,000 people on the street, we're shouting, we're here, we're queer, and we're not going away, and all of this kind of stuff. But I still think when you think of small town, Granard, Killarney, Ardee, Carrickmacross, Newry, Falkhill, if you've got a young lad that's been called that in school every day, and it's wearing on him and wearing on them and wearing on them, or they're never been called it directly, but I've gone into schools where young people have said, they never say it to my face, but like when I'm in the toilets, they'll be shouting from toilet to toilet, does anybody smell a queer in here, and things like this. And so it's that word still carries that. Now, as I say, it's not as dramatic as the N word and Oprah story, but on a level it is. It's that kind of, it's taking back ownership of the word, which I don't really get that, to tell you the truth. But it's also about understanding that for the time being, there are a group of us in my age group that came up in a world where, like, if you're between 50 and 80, you came up in a world where that word was used to describe you ad nauseum, in the street, in your home. I did a talk one time, and a psychologist came up to me after the talk and she said, my brother's gay, and I never realized this. My father still calls him a queer.
Gosh.
And she said, it was just after your talk I realized, actually, that's not a description. That's not a description of him.
Yeah.
He's a gay man. He's in a same-sex relationship. He's whatever but he's not a queer. And she said, we've kind of just ignored the fact that my father has always called him a queer. So that's where I sit with that word. I absolutely celebrate when young people use it. And here, I haven't much time left on this mortal coil. I'll eventually be going off it, and there'll be people coming up behind me that have to keep this going.
Yeah.
And have to keep us safe. And if it's using the word queer that gets us there, I don't care. So long as we get there.
Yeah.
So I'm not precious about whether we use it or whether we don't use it. But that's my historic understanding.
Thank you for that. Well, that's why I was interested in it. And also, I think there's good intentions from a lot of people using the word as well.
Yes,
that aren't aware of what you've just shared.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for people to have an awareness of how that can be impacting other people or triggering people in some way. So, so thanks for sharing that.
Right.
So this dinner party, who would you like to bring along? Keeping in mind they could be dead, alive, family member, celebrity, but just somebody that would be at the dinner party that you'd have good crack with. Who would you bring along?
Oh, I know exactly who I'd bring along.
Right.
So, as a young lesbian woman living in Dundalk all them years ago, when I was very young, when I was 14 or 15, okay? And we lived in 2 television station land, RT1, maybe 1 television station land. I don't know if RT2 was around then, but RT1 was our television station land. And there's a pub in Dundalk, and there was an old man owned at that pub. And I won't name it to save his family's blessings or save his family's embarrassment maybe by it. But I remember going into that pub one day and asking him, could I come in and sit there and watch the tennis on a Saturday,
Right.
the US Open. There was a lesbian woman playing in it called Martina Navratilova.
Okay, yeah.
And I was very, very young. And we did see little bits of Wimbledon on RTE at the time, but not a lot. And she was she was the only out person that I had ever seen.
Wow.
As a young woman. Like at home now, this is God's truth. I shouldn't be boasting about this. I've got of scrapbooks of every piece of newspaper that she appeared in.
Oh, wow.
Over the years, I've everything that Martina Navratilova ever did. I have every single red top, every newspaper. I used to be friends with a woman that worked in news agents, and when they'd cut off the papers to take them, and the Sunday papers to give back the tops, I used to get all the Sunday papers because we couldn't afford to buy them. But I used to get them to be able to go through it and read about Martina Navratilova and to cut out the pictures and save them. And a pub in Dundalk used to let me sit inside the door on a Saturday to watch the US Open when she was playing. And then Wimbledon, and then we got really great, and we got television that had colour, and we got television that had all them things. And so I could watch it from home. In later years, I met a woman. I'm sure I got involved with a woman, and she bought me tickets to a TSB tennis classic in Dublin.
Right.
Where I met Martina Navratilova. And I absolutely didn't like her. Which devastated me. Which absolutely devastated me. I didn't like her at all. And it is just don't meet your idols.
Yeah.
But it wasn't her really, it was her life. It was the lifestyle she led that I was in love with. Like an out lesbian woman with these gorgeous women on her arm and all. I could be that person. Couldn't have a tennis racket, but I could be that person. I could meet a woman and have a relationship with a woman.
Interesting.
And so I think that I would love to sit down and share a meal with her and talk about her life like I knew everything about it. Like off the top of my head, like I knew her father's name, and I knew where she lived in the Czech Republic and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And I knew everything there was to know about this person. And I just was absolutely not obsessed in a bad way. I wasn't like, oh, I'm in love with her. I was never in love with her, but I loved her lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I loved thinking it was, Kamala Harris, I always credit Kamala Harris with this. You cannot be what you cannot see.
Very good. Yeah.
And seeing her said to me, I can be a lesbian woman in the world. And yeah, there was a huge fascination around her because she was millionaire, and there was this big show when she arrived anywhere, and this gorgeous women falling at her feet and that. But it let me see what I could be.
Yeah.
And so I think now, at the heyday of my life, as the years are starting to turn grey, I'd like to sit down and have a chat with her.
Okay.
We don't share the same views now. Her views on trans women in sport is very different, and some other stuff that later in life I heard from her, and I saw opinions of her that she wouldn't be my cup of tea. I wouldn't be sitting down to have a chat with her to go, oh yeah, oh God, yes.
Yeah.
But I would be sitting down to go, let's talk about the late 70s and the 80s and the 90s when you were that person in my life, when you were the woman that opened the door and showed me that there was this kind of life that I could be.
That's amazing. That's very interesting because I must admit, once you did disclosure, it was like, all right. But to the very last point you made, though, she's led an interest in life. She inspired you at different times of your life. So I can completely understand why I'd want to talk to somebody like that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't mind, I'm going to share mine. And mine's kind of similar in a vein, and not necessarily their views, but more views of them. So when I was growing up in the 80s, there wasn't many gay men out there. And if they were an object of ridicule, or they had to make you laugh, or tragedy, or they were a villain. And I just remember seeing Freddie Mercury. and just thinking he is amazing.
Mhm.
And I just remember the showmanship, the kind of like confidence, I just was blown away by him. And I was only a wee boy at the time, but I just remember any time I seen him, it was just fascinating. What was the Olympics that he sang with that opera singer?
Which it was I'm gonna hazard a guess and say it was 1984 was Barcelona.
Barcelona?
Barcelona was the name of the song they sang, and her name, she was amazing.
Was it Maria Callas?
No.
But I don't know if I'd seen it as because I wouldn't remember that. But I remember the Barcelona outfit. So
Yeah,
whether it was
it wouldn't have been. I think 84 was Los Angeles, but so it was.
it might have been 90 or something.
Yeah.
But I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is just hearing opera and this huge showman and a complimenting so well, confidence, and then like even like seeing clips of Live Aid and
Yeah.
it was just wonderful. But then on the flip side was this tragedy and this like how he died, and it was all seen as like, oh, as a consequence of his lifestyle, he died the way, especially in Britain at the time, it was talking about HIV and AIDS and the whole tombstone adverts and everything, and it all being about like, oh, because of your lifestyle, this is that you're gonna die about it. And there's a whole Tory backlash and the Thatcher side of things and the whole Section 28, and all negative, negative, negative. But I always remember that my kind of like, I just remember his confidence and him dealing with all that negativity and still being this proud, confident showman. And again, actually, he wasn't at the time, I think he only came out publicly
Yeah.
later in his life.
Yeah, he wasn't. He never talked about it one way or the other.
No.
It was never discussed.
But he was very well known for, having, people, other male lovers and so
And he
on.
played in Ireland in 1979, and I was Curtin a fella when I was in secondary school. And he went to his concert. He was Queen crazy, and that's who introduced me to Queen.
Oh wow. That's amazing and then I remember when Lady Gaga came out, I remember just thinking, oh, I know about Gaga, I know Radio Gaga. And then I'm like, I love Lady Gaga. And I'm just like, God, a lot of the kind of pizzazz and showmanship and kind of, put on a show and be unashamedly who you are of artists that I see it feeds very much back to what I am inspired by when it comes to other people. But I just think sitting down and having the crack with Freddie would be amazing because they would trying to keep his it's weird because I was going to say trying to keep his attention would be hard. However, on the flip side, he was very, very, very smart, intellectual
He was an
person.
intelligent man, yeah.
So I would be fascinated to have him as a dinner guest.
And I think like I've heard people talk about him over the years, Brian May and John Deacon and them, the other members of the band all talk about him. And they've never put him up there on a pedestal. They've always said he was a cheeky chappy. I'm sure he was a slough of his day, like that kind of stuff. He was just a real guy.
Yeah.
And they never needed to go, oh, Freddie was this, and this.
Yeah.
Freddie was a guy that unfortunately came across AIDS, and that's really just all that happened.
Exactly.
And it was such a sad loss of such an incredible human being.
Yeah.
And it's Montserrat Caballé was the name of the
very good.
The singer.
Very good.
And hearing that song start would just make the hair on the back of your neck stand.
100%. Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
There's another cultural recommendation then.
Yeah. And when we're on it, another one, and we used to have the DVD here and I loaned it to a photographer who wanted some information and I never got it back. And I know who you are. And you know who you are. And the DVD was called Gay Sex in the 70s.
Right.
Okay. And it's an interview with loads and loads of older gay men in America. And they're talking about their lifestyle pre and post HIV. And there's a guy there that paints tiles. And he's sitting chatting to the interviewer and he's this stack on the table, like a mound of tiles. And he said, every one of them are a friend I lost to AIDS.
Oh, God.
And it showed how it absolutely ravaged the gay community, especially in the US and probably in the UK, but not as much. I remember being in Toronto, in Canada, on holidays in July. I'm going to say 1983 or 1982, and on the news, on the news in Toronto, it said the first case of AIDS has been detected in Ireland.
Gosh.
And I was in Toronto when I remember hearing that news, and it was like I wasn't really fully aware of my own sexual orientation at the time, and all of that. I didn't have the validation of my life at that time. I knew what was going on for me, but I didn't have the validation of it. But I was absolutely aware that this had something to do with me. That
Yeah.
thing, this thing that was going around, had some sort of an impact on my life, although I didn't know what it would be at the time, you know. And but that Gay Sex in the 70s, and it might be on YouTube. It's a powerful, powerful documentary. There's a couple in it, and there's a guy in it talking, and he's saying, we were at a disco in Los Angeles this night, somewhere, and we were all there, and the room was full, and I was with this really nice guy, and he said this very famous person walked into the room, and the guy I was with said, we're leaving. And he said there was some sort of an energy in the room that night, and I didn't know what that energy was, and I was very new to it. But I was with this older, more experienced fella, and he said, we're leaving. And we left. And he said within 3 years, everybody that was at that party was dead.
Oh, my God.
It was an orgy.
Wow.
When this guy arrived, seemingly this big star, when he arrived, it would be an orgy, and there was loads of sex and all of this. And whoever this guy was, he had some sort of experience of him. And he said to the young lad, we're getting out of here. We're not getting involved in this. And he said he remembered the energy in the room being that something was happening, and he had never been to anything like that before. So he didn't know what it was.
Wow.
And this older man said, we're leaving. And he said, I think he said within 3 years or within 5 years of leaving that room, everybody that was at that party was dead.
And that was at the peak of it then, yeah.
That was at the peak of it, yeah.
And isn't it amazing how things have changed now? Because now, I think Scotland, so I had a t-shirt I was going to work today, and it was from LGBT Scotland. Are you familiar?
Yes, I'm very familiar.
When I used to live over in Edinburgh, Glasgow, I did some fundraising for them, and they're a wonderful charity.
We had 2 women from them come over here, 3 women from them come over here to do a talk.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I had a t-shirt, and it said human, and it was in all these different pride colors and all, and they did these t-shirts to raise money for them. But then they did a lot of fundraising and support for people living with AIDS and HIV. But then I also worked with a charity called We Everly Care in Scotland, who were AIDS and HIV charity. And they've now come up with a mission to, I think it's by 2030, that there will be no new cases. And apparently it's not impossible. The way the research and the benefits of the work that are being done into the funding of it and everything are making it so manageable, not only to live with it, but for it to wipe it out in with less than 10 years, less than 5 years time. So to see such a turnaround in such a short space of time, because the funding has gone into it, and the support's gone into it, raising
and it
awareness.
affects men. So I always said, if men got pregnant, we'd have easier ways of getting babies out. To be a wee door or something on your side for the baby to pop out.
Jeez, you could do a completely different podcast than that. Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, like some of the stuff that we've just kind of segued onto. Like I remember saying something here, calling one of the kids here, Martina Navratilova. I couldn't say her second name; she was a foreigner. And I said, "Here, Martina Navratilova, get this for me or whatever." And she went, "Who's Martina Navratilova?" I nearly fell off the chair. And what do you mean, who's Martina Navratilova? And I think it's the same with HIV and AIDS. Young people now, my mother's in the room. Young people now, it is. Young people now don't know, and that's our fault, that we haven't kept those experiences alive. Like, I know that film Pride was great. Do you remember that film, that UK film that talked a bit about it?
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then It's a Sin. It was very good
It's
as
a
well.
sin, yeah. And it's just that, like, like, we're very, very fortunate that, yes, it's not the danger of a very natural thing, having an intimate encounter with somebody that then could sign your death warrant. One night, one experience. Now, I do know people who in recent times have become HIV positive. Now, the medication and that works now, and once they can get their viral load under control, they're, absolutely everything will, please God, be okay for them. But like, it's still there in one sense, in terms of you can still end up getting it, getting HIV, and it just doesn't go any further now. But it's about, like, we still have a responsibility to make sure people understand what that is and how that happens.
And how to deal with the stigma.
Oh, completely, yeah.
The social stigma is just horrible.
Still, all these years later, it's very, very hard, very difficult. Like, we do talks on a weekly in this place, have somebody maybe in to talk or something. Probably the most difficult is getting somebody in who's HIV positive. There's the odd 2 or 3 people who, yes, are all on the circuit all the time and will talk about it. But newer, younger people, it's very, very difficult to get them in to talk about it, because, and no matter how out and how confident and how secure they are, when you say, will you talk about your HIV? They go, no, I don't share that kind of stuff, So it's still, the stigma's still there around it.
Yeah. So all very interesting. So thank you so much. I was expecting us to just have a wee chat about that, but we ended up having loads of crack about it. So thanks very much for that. So this dinner party's shaping up to be quite interesting.
Yes.
And to round us all off now, what we're going to do then is go back to where we started off with, where you told us a bit about the history of Outcomers. And it would be great to give our listeners and our watchers a bit more, as of now, how can people get involved in Outcomers, or what are the types of things that services that you offer, and how can people reach out to you? So, yeah, over to you.
Okay, well, you can reach out to us simply now by Googling Outcomers, and something will come up with a phone number or a name or whatever. So reaching out to us is easy. I suppose the things we do is we run a series of services, like we have a women's night, men's night, trans night, young adults night, Rainbow Connections night. We run those from here in our centre. We also run services in Cavan and Monaghan, and they're LGBT meetups, social meetups, where you go. Some of them are structured like you meet in a room in a building. Some are coffee shops. They just meet in a coffee shop, and you go along and meet other people who are the same and have your chats and your crack. And so that happens every night of the week. There's an LGBT meeting happening somewhere in the world, and somewhere in Louth, Meath, Cavan and Monaghan. And we also we deliver a lot of training and go into schools, talk to doctors, to psychotherapists, to teachers, to counsellors, and to students. So we go out to schools and we do talks about being LGBT and how to support people who are part of the LGBT community. So we do that. We run social events like Pride. Last year we had a play designed and developed called Broad, the Bold and the Beautiful. So Pride, the Bold and the Beautiful. And it looked at the life of 3 different age people. So one was when decriminalisation happened. One was a young woman coming out and going to her first Pride, and the other was a young trans person coming out and going to their first Pride. So it's called Broad, the Bold and the Beautiful. Hopefully we'll be running it again in 2026. So we get things like that. We took that play on the road. We had it in Cavan, we had it in Monaghan, we had it in Balbriggan, we had it in Dundalk, we had it in Drogheda. So we've taken it around a few places, and we hope, as I said, to take it around a few more places.
Brilliant.
So we do things like that. We had a great culture night here this year, and we had a drag night, and it was great fun. And we're doing that again for Christmas, at Christmas event. And last week and the week before that you attended yourself, we had a coffee morning here for breast cancer, because 3 years ago I was diagnosed with breast cancer and thankfully came through it. And so we did a wee fundraiser to raise some money for Breast Cancer Ireland.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to be more. And so we do LGBT events, but we also try to do stuff that incorporates the wider community.
Mhm.
We have talks over in our local library. We do these things called Pride Across the World, where we ask new communities, like people who've come here from Ukraine, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, from Africa, who are part of the LGBT community, to come and tell us their stories about
Brilliant.
their lives and getting to here. So we run those in libraries around the country. We've got 2 on in the coming weeks. We've got one on in Navan and one on the Barbican in Drogheda. And they're talking about HIV, as a matter of fact, with Rebecca Talon, the Haviland, superwoman, great story. And so, we run a lot of events like that, and we have, I suppose, a community centre that you can call into for a cup of coffee and get some support at most times in the day, from early morning until we're still sitting here now at this time.
We didn't expect the crack to still go on, to be fair.
Yes, exactly.
We're still open.
But yes, so we have a lot of things like that. I suppose if there was a call to arms around the work we do, I would say it's about challenging the horrible stuff that we're seeing happening now, the anti-trans, anti-LGBT rhetoric that's going on, the things we are seeing that we never saw before. So Lorna, our youth worker, was in the school a couple of weeks ago, and somebody posted, "Oh, it's great talk in the school today, blah, blah, blah." And so many comments that came up after it saying, "Why are we shoving this down the throats of our children?" And we haven't experienced that kind of stuff in a long, long time. And really great was to kind of see people go, "Oh, come on."
Yeah.
You know, we got a piece of funding that was announced last week through the Department of Equality. And it absolutely blew my mind that somebody wrote up, "Could this money not go to help disabled and homeless children?" And I'm thinking to myself, wow, we've got disabled and homeless LGBT people that we're supporting with this money. And it made me think, wow, I remember in the 80s, a group of lesbians getting money in Dublin from Punchias de Rossa at the time, the Labour Party guy. And I remember the front page of the Sunday World that weekend was a picture of a child in a wheelchair. This money could have been used to help this child and not to help the LGBT lesbians, as it was then. And so it's just interesting to see that's the level of stuff that's coming back up. You know, could that money not have been used for this, LGBT young people, or what's this they're called now? Undocumented homeless. These are kids that are part of the LGBT community who sleep on other people's sofas, who are living at their aunties because their mum and dad threw them out of the house or stuff like that. And they're the biggest cohort of young people who are living homeless.
Right.
And they're LGBT young people, and they're homeless. Maybe they're not sleeping out under a tarp on the street, but they're homeless. They're out of their homes. So our funding does go to help LGBT young people, but it's about challenging that. I saw it. The guy wrote that up. What about disabled and homeless? And some people going, "Oh, come on, man! This is a stretch even for you."
Yeah.
And and I think we've got to challenge this stuff.
Yep.
We've got to call people out on this stuff and say we are all entitled to live in this world.
Yeah.
And for our community, who have been like, I look at myself now in my 60s. We are part of the first out generation of LGBT people. Like, if you think that it was criminalized up to 1993, we're the people who are going to be going into nursing homes as out lesbian and gay people. So these people need to know how to treat and respect us.
Yep.
Doctors, hospitals, the places where we are going to end up. It shouldn't be a case that when we reach an age, we have to go back into the closet because nobody knows how to support us.
100%.
Or because, we've heard stories here of a gay man dying in a nursing home, and the people in the nursing home saying to his partner, "Oh, your brother passed away. We're so sorry to hear about that." thinking that it was his brother he was up visiting when it was really the man that he'd loved for 40 years or 50 years. So we need to never have to go back there.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is by challenging the stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
And if you feel not strong enough to challenge it, you need to talk to the likes of me, talk to the likes of you, talk to people who feel I can go to somebody who can help challenge this kind of stuff.
Brilliant. That's a perfect example of allyship and what I hope people
Completely.
get from these types of experiences, listen to the podcast and just remind people that, you know, just standing up for people is one of the easiest ways to be an ally in the world. But educating yourself and learning more about these things. And I've learned loads today, listening to you, all about Outcomers, and I'll definitely be getting more engaged. Now that I'm back in just over the border, I'm not far from me at all. So I'll definitely be getting more involved, and especially after the wee coffee morning you held, it was great crack. I met loads of people, and your lovely team here, they're all really lovely. And
you better mention Lorna and Paul.
Well,
Lorna's our youth worker and Paul's our outreach worker.
Oh my gosh, Laura and Paul, you're both amazing, and I'll definitely be seeing you again. And actually, it was on my way down here today, and I got a lovely surprise. Paul picked me up from the train station, and it's because you had arranged it. You didn't tell me, so I was like, it was like it's an example of how welcoming you are.
Hospitality.
Hospitality, yes, you can't beat a good old-fashioned hospitality.
No, you can't.
And friendship and so on. So on that lovely note, then, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh,
been a
thank
pleasure.
you. Good. Well, 100% me too as well. Unfortunately, you're not gonna. I'll be back down here, so you'll be hearing more crack from there. I'll be chewing your ear off to hear more of the history of it as well. And my last podcast, I tried to get my last podcast guest to do the sign off. We had to do a few takes, so we're going to see if we can do it in 1 or 2 takes here. Do you want to give it a go?
Yeah. Okay.
So before I give it a go, I'll raise my hand. I just need to remind everybody that's been either listening or watching, you've been listening to the Proud Craft podcast with me, Damien McCall, and pronouns he, him. And the whole point of this podcast is to hopefully inspire you to be better allies in the world, or to seek out people like Bernie and her wonderful Outcomers team and all the wonderful stuff that they do. Because sometimes becoming a better ally in the world is just raising awareness of how easy it can be, of getting a better understanding of other people so you can be a better ally. If you want to hear more from Proud Crack, make sure that if you're on Spotify or YouTube that you follow or subscribe, and give us some of those likes and those comments. That would be wonderful. Really want to hear about what you like. Maybe if you want me to speed it up along, because I enjoy the crack, and so I could talk for Ireland. So
can I.
I know we're bad as each other. So if you want them to be shorter, then give us a nudge, tell me. But it's hard when you're having good crack, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, so do remember to follow, like, and subscribe Proud Crack, which brings us to our sign off. And do remember to
stay proud.
Oh God.
In one.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.